6 years before, we wanted to engage people and give them more information about how they consume electricity and more tools to let them do the work themselves to improve and reduce the consumption. So what we started with, from paper bill, which people were getting once every 2 months, we moved to this type of email once every 2 months, which show a little more information. So it shows the graph with monthly usage before, and also if person clicks the link below, there would be more details, and also one can see relation of his consumption to the average of Auroville. So this was the second step, but it was still not enough for people to get direct link from their actions, what they do today, to the total number which they get in the end of 2 months, because it's very big gap. So the next step we did, we started 2 years before working on a device which is basically connecting electrical meters to internet and is giving much more information, so people are able to get statements like this. So here one can see a graph which shows my consumption for 1 week. So each bar is 1 day and it's split on time of the day. So I can see how much I consume during morning, evening, night and day. And below, this scattered chart is showing the consumption of all Aurovillians, those who are connected to the system. So one dot is the consumption of one person, and the orange one is my consumption, so I can see where I am standing in relation to the others. And why I'm talking about this is because the same technology can be applied to water. Actually, from the very beginning working on this device, we were envisioning the same technology applied to water meters, because we believe the water is even more important to save and control than the electricity. So this is the electrical meters which we are upgrading. Actually, this is the old normal type of electrical meters which people have to read manually. They come and take down the readings once in 2 months. So what we did, we connected to this. This is a red LED which is blinking in accordance to consumption. The more people consume, the faster it blinks. So we put a little sensor which counts those blinks and sends this data to internet. And basically same system could be applied to the water meters. This type of water meters are common in the residential zone. But before I go and explain how we work with these water meters and how this technology works, I'd like to say a few words why I think this technology is actually relevant and important for us here and now. So a quick story. Some time ago, not so long ago, a friend of mine who lives in Cape Town, Africa, mentioned that his water bill was more than $1,000 for 1 month in summer. So I was quite shocked. And the reason was because Cape Town had water crisis in 2007. So I was shocked and at the same time interested. Why? Not why, but how does a crisis of water looks like, and what people do, how do they survive, and what are the lessons, what do they learn. So I Googled, and here is a quick information about it. So because of less rainwater fall, the water dams were declining for 3 consecutive years. So from 2015, you see that's really steep decline. And basically, by summer 2017, water level of major dams reached the lowest record of 15%. And actually, they cannot use the bottom 10%, so only 5% was the backup. The government set the water restrictions to level 6B. So apparently in South Africa, they have 7 levels of water restrictions according to the situation. So 6B actually means that 50 liters per person per day are allowed to use. And there are several other restrictions which are applicable to every level. So, by the way, do any of you have any idea how many liters per day do you use? Just raise your hands who have any rough idea. Okay.
135 liters.
Very good.
132.
Okay, well done. I didn't know until I was preparing this presentation. I was surprised to learn it. I'm also around 120, 130. But what is 50 liters? 50 liters is actually quite not so much. So this is a chart from South African government. So it shows you what you can do. And I have little different observation. I did some measurements at my house. I will speak a little later about that. But the worst part was what would happen if the level of water dams would reach 13.5%. In this case, they would call it 0 day, and it would basically mean that all municipal water supply would fully stop. It means no water anymore in the houses. It means like you don't get water in home, you don't get water in the offices, and every resident will have to queue up for the daily ration of 25 liters. Go outside, find a tap, and stand in the queue for several hours. So this would be quite a disastrous thing for many residents and businesses. Some businesses would simply shut down because it's not possible to operate in this way. And people who are able to leave the city, they would find a temporary place outside, because many city livers are not prepared to spend several hours every day to stand in the queue and then live on 25 liters, which is very, very little. The good thing about 0 day, it never happened. And why it never happened is because they did some good measures. So of course they increased supply. They put some three desalination plant emergency, not the big ones, but these are examples of what people had to go through to reduce their consumption significantly. So no gardening, or maximum what you can do is save water from your washing and garden and use it in the garden. Take shower very quickly and not every day. So recommended is once in 3 days. And actually the Prime Minister of the country officially said that she is taking shower once in 3 days and she is not washing her car. And she said that greasy hair is a sign of her consciousness in the time. Flush toilet with grey water and don't flush it every time. Store it and flush it later. And then use wet tissues instead of water, and use all the water more than once, except for drinking. So luckily this worked. So 0 day never happened, and by reducing their consumption very dramatically, they managed to survive this crisis, and now the water dams are almost full again, and they have no serious restrictions on water. So this is actually a very strong message to the whole world that we cannot be careless about water, and that we should know actually how much we consume and what would we do in case the climate changes and we get less water supply. So coming back to Auroville, this, just for quick information, is the trend of electricity over years. You can see we did quite a lot of trying to educate people and give them more information, and luckily the total, so this red line is the growth, speed of growth. So consumption is growing every year. This is normal because we get more people, we get more buildings. But the speed of growth, luckily, is not going up. So basically in 2013, we were growing faster than now, which is a good thing, but still we hope that it will go even more down, since now this year we are introducing these weekly charts with much more information. Here in Auroville, we're still on the level of printed bills once every month, and not even in all parts of Auroville. So this is Auroville Water Tower, where I live in residential zone, as many Aurovillians, and we get water from there. And what we get to know about our consumption is once a month we get a paper which says so many cubic meters and so many rupees. So we still didn't move, and this doesn't help much to me, for example, to know what I consume per day and how much, what means what, how can I save and improve. So the technology which we made for electricity can be applied to water. So this is a water meter, so we can connect it to internet and upload the data of usage in real time. It means that whenever I take a shower, I can see how much I spend. And in the course of time, it will build my consciousness of water usage. This meter, apart from these numbers, which are telling us the total, how many cubic meters we consume, so here is 0, but it also has this thing which is spinning. And it's spinning in accordance to the water flow through the water meter. So the faster it flows, the faster it spins, and for each liter which is coming through the meter, this wheel would rotate so many times, one or more than one, based on the model on the meter. So let's look closer at this spinner. So what if we would know how many times it rotates and send us data to internet? And we can do it. We create this small piece of plastic with a little hole which is standing just on top of the needle of the spinner. And whenever it rotates, it either close or open. And we have this little sensor with 2 eyes which is watching it. And whenever it's open, it's just waiting. So how does it watch? It sends the little ray of light, and if the ray comes back, reflects back, then it's white. But if it doesn't reflect back, it means that it's black. So, and when it's black, it's happy, it counts 1. So it does, and in the end, it comes with every minute we get the count of rotations. So like this, we get the data for every minute, and every minute we upload it to internet, and we can plot them to a graph. And the graph already can tell us a story, and the story is that somebody was brushing his teeth. So that was an example, but here is a screenshot of a real graph of my apartment. So just last week, we hurried up, especially for this presentation. We installed the first and pilot installation in my house. So this is a real-time graph of my apartment, a little segment of it. And what we are looking here now at is the leak. So the water was leaking. Don't worry, it's not a real leak. I just simulated it. And we can see that in 1 minute, so this smallest value is just 150 ml. It's very tiny leak. It's actually dripping. And so it's very much visible on the graph. And the software can be programmed to send an alert and tell me, please check your taps and close the leak. And these minutes can be combined into hours. And like this, we see a picture of 1 day. So this was a Sunday, and all morning family was in the house, maybe some washing machine. And then the biggest one is, of course, gardening. So you may know that if you use a hose pipe, then this consumption of water through gardening through hose pipe is bigger in comparison to any other activities which one can do in the house. That's why, of course, people are advised to switch to drip irrigation, which I'm still planning to do. This installation is a very pilot. It's the first one, and we just made it to show something on this presentation because our main focus is electricity. But we believe that this is very important because, as I said, the situation of a crisis may happen anytime, and building of the consciousness is not a quick thing. To understand, to control and understand people's consumption is not very fast. That's what we learned from electricity, for example. Hardware is a working prototype. It's working, but between the prototype and production versions, there is still a big gap. For example, we need to optimize the electricity consumption usage of that device so it can work off a battery, because this device will not have the socket nearby. It will work off a battery. The software can be used from electricity. This is an easy part. And the connectivity, we are hoping for LoRa, which Aza will tell after me. They are working on that thing. This is a radio which helps to transmit data. But in electricity, we were using Wi-Fi and GSM, and we already kind of mastered these 2 channels. They are not ideal, so they are kind of backup. If LoRa is not there, we still could use those. Conclusion, to zoom out of this story with residential consumption. Definitely the residential usage of water is not the biggest contributor to the water problem. The farming is more, as far as I know. I'm not expert, but that's what people say. But I believe that building water usage is something which will help us in the long run. And especially in a possible scenario of a water crisis in Auroville, Auroville would depend on the limited water supply. It could be a lake, it could be a desalination plant or underground water storage. So in this situation, water budget would become a reality. And ability to control and understand our consumption would be essential. But in this moment, we won't be able to install it in 1 day. So the technology and also building the consciousness takes quite some time.